Hello there, super excited having you back and hope you're doing really well. This is Daniel, and we're going to go over three messages today. There is a question from Amanda, there is a comment from Joe, and there is a message from Dawn as well. So let's jump right in here, and just quick disclaimer, nothing here is medical advice, just general thoughts and advice that I hope will be helpful to anyone tuning in. So Amanda, who I connected with, I believe, a couple of weeks ago. I believe Amanda's from Brazil, and I remember her saying that she hadn't really found so much in Portuguese about Insomnia. She was happy to find the channel, and I think she started implementing some of the techniques I always talk about. So that said, let's read the message. So here we go. Hi Daniel, just wanted to ask something. People who suffer from chronic insomnia have to wake up at the same time every day. But, for example, if my alarm is set to wake me up at 9 a.m., and I just fell asleep at 7 a.m., do I have to get out of bed anyway with just 2 hours of sleep? It is torture. Totally get it. And this is a very good question. And so for those of you who are new to the channel, what Amanda's talking about here is a technique called bedtime restriction, which is also unfortunately known as sleep restriction, whereby you limit time in bed, typically to maybe 6 or 7 hours or so. And the goal is to stay awake during the day, build a strong sleep drive, a strong need to sleep that then helps you sleep throughout the night. And when you're doing that, you can gradually extend time in bed. Now, part of that is keeping a fixed wake-up time. Generally speaking, very important. So this question often comes up. What if I had terrible sleep or very little sleep? Do I still have to get up at, in this case, 9 a.m.? And the kind of traditional cut and dry answer is yes. Even if you have a terrible night, get up at 9. And although you're going to feel terrible that day, you're going to build a strong sleep drive. You're going to really, have a strong need for sleep the following night. That's going to help you sleep the following night. And then, a pattern will form. Okay? And in my opinion, I do definitely believe that having a pretty consistent wake-up time is very important. Well, you can still give yourself a little bit of leeway. Meaning, if it's 6:30 and you're like, I'm finally, I think, going to go to sleep, and you have your alarm set for 9, you can set it for 9:30 or 10. Or if it happens once in the blue moon, even later. But especially if you're kind of trying to get better, then it is good not to vary too much. So maybe, give yourself an extra half an hour, extra hour, but try to not have much variability in your wake-up time. That is really good. And the reason is this. In fact, this is the second time I taped this podcast because I was trying to do some math before and I got it totally wrong. So I'm going to try to do it now. Now, the reason is it's important to have a consistent wake-up time is the following. That the wake-up time kind of anchors everything. That's the anchor for your entire sleep phase. And the reason for that is the following. This is known as I learned it as the 16-hour rule. I'm kind of modifying it to the 17-hour rule. And it works like this. So most people actually sleep about 6 hours, but most of us feel we need about 7 hours. So I'm just using 7 hours as an example. There are 24 hours in a day, right? So 24 minus 7 is 17. And so that means, what this means is that you need 17 hours of wakefulness to produce 7 hours of sleep. And what happens then is the following, that if you wake up, let's say at 7 a.m., then, 17 hours after that is midnight, which means that if you wake up 7 a.m., you're probably going to be ready to sleep 17 hours after that, which is midnight. Okay? Now, just to play around with this, if you wake up at 9 a.m., then 17 hours after that is 2 a.m., which means you're probably going to be ready to sleep at 2 a.m. And now, if you generally have your wake-up time set up for 9, but then you have this terrible night, right? And you fall asleep at 7, and then you slept until, let's say, you slept until noon. Then what happens is, by using that 17-hour rule, what's going to happen is that you're only going to be ready to sleep 17 hours after a noon, which is, let's see, so 12 hours later is midnight, and then if we add 7 hours, that's 7 a.m., right? So you see how a delay in your wake-up time shifts everything. It makes it really, really complicated. So, so I hope this was helpful, Amanda. And stay in touch. Let us know how you are doing. Cool. Let's move on to a comment from Joe from Malaysia. And this is a comment on episode pod number 37. And to give you a little bit of background, Joe has had insomnia for, I can't remember exactly how long, but I think he found Sasha Stevens' excellent book, The Effortless Sleep Method. That was helpful. And he connected with me when he had trouble falling asleep because of his neighbors. Noisy neighbors made it very difficult for him to fall asleep. And we talked about like various things he could do, but one of the things I said to consider was to go to bed later, so that he would have a stronger sleep drive, need sleep more, and then despite the noise, be able to fall asleep. And that could build confidence. That could show him that despite noise, I can fall asleep, and then maybe he could go to bed a little earlier. So with that background, let's read a comment from 3 days ago. And Joe, by the way, I meant to actually include this yesterday, but overlooked it somehow, so here it comes. Thanks, Daniel, for the insightful advice. Yeah, I've purposely delayed my sleep time by 1 hour and used the extra time for meditation instead. I meditate for around 1 hour and 40 minutes these nights now. For my meditation, what I do is I stay with the feeling of anxiety, worry that I have about sleep and neighborly noise. I don't try to fight, suppress, run away from the feeling, and I found that this feeling of anxiety and worry will gradually diminish on its own over time. Just last night, I was woken up again by my neighbor's noise just as I was about to fall asleep, and although I felt a bit of anxiety at that time, nevertheless, I quickly fell asleep again. So I'll keep using this meditation method and adopt your advice as well. So thanks again, my friend Joe from Malaysia. First of all, super, super happy that you fell back asleep faster this night. That is super, super encouraging. And generally speaking, when we do kind of these behavioral modifications and things are working, the best thing to do is stay the course. Just keep doing what you're doing. Now that said, for other people that are tuning in here and people that may be thinking, oh, Joe's falling asleep faster because he's meditating an hour and 40 minutes. Maybe I should do that too. Probably not. If you love meditation, then you can do it at any point as much as you want. That is fantastic. But if somebody's doing meditation or yoga or exercise or relaxation techniques or anything else like that with the purpose of trying to fall asleep faster, that becomes a sleep effort. That becomes something that you're trying to produce sleep. That just produces tension, expectations, and more insomnia. So I'm guessing, Joe, that you really like meditation and you seem to be using it in a very productive fashion here, kind of just like decreasing worry, and then as a kind of secondary effect of that, you also fall asleep faster. But I believe that can be actually and perhaps more because you're going to bed later. The meditation may be helpful too, but again, we should never do anything with the purpose of making us fall asleep faster. So again, Joe, super happy, and let us know how things go moving forward. Cool. And now a message from Don. And Don, who has contributed a lot, I've talked about him in a few other episodes. Briefly, I believe that Don has had trouble sleeping for actually decades. I'm reading some messages, or 28 years. And just recently started doing some of the bedtime restriction. I just talked about sleep restriction and was finding benefit with that. And sent me another message. I believe this was actually earlier today. Yes, it was. Let's see. Sorry, I'm reading the message and I realize there's a message here that I don't know if it was recent or not. Actually, I think this is all. I'm gonna read the whole thing. It's all from today, I think. So, hi Daniel. Just wanted to give you a quick update. Since applying bedtime restriction, my time in bed has decreased by 2 hours. My number of times I wake up has decreased from 4 to 6 to 2, and my total sleep increased from 4 to 6 to 6.5 to 7 hours. One additional technique I've added was to repeat to myself, I am a great sleeper, throughout the day and when I awake. Anyways, I'd like to thank you for all of your hard work and advice. It's really changing my life. I didn't see this morning. This is amazing. Amazing. Really, really super happy to hear this, Dawn. And yeah, this is awesome. And then another message here, which is also from today. One other tweak that I made was to not try to force myself to stay awake as late, because I used to become very tired at 10:30, and I would try to keep myself up until at least 11:30. By 11:30, I would then start to wake up again, so I decided to go to bed at 10:30 and move my wake up time by an hour. I might try to shift these times in the future, but the extra morning time is helpful in two ways. It decreases morning anxiety and also gives me time to get my day organized and get things done. Thanks so much. Yeah, this sounds great. I'm realizing as I'm speaking here that this became more of a success story than me giving pointers, which I was kind of planning to do. And so I just want to say then that going to bed earlier and getting up earlier makes perfect sense. I generally, when I see patients in clinic and ask people like, oh, what time would you like to get up? And people say 9, then I go like, well, then you have to stay up till, you know, 1:30 a.m. Then people are like, oh, well, maybe I should go get up earlier. And generally speaking, I feel like for most people, having kind of an early wake up time is easier because you don't have to kind of force yourself to stay up so late. And then one more thing, which I think is really important, is whenever we change things, whenever we make changes, we tend to kind of like wonder how that's going to work. We tend to say, okay, I'm going to bed earlier. Am I still going to sleep well, or am I not going to sleep well? Maybe I should have gone to bed later again because that was working, or maybe I should have done that type of like wondering often triggers an initial kind of resurfacing of insomnia. So, Don, if you find that over the next day or few days you actually sleep worse, then just know that that's completely expected. That almost always happens when we make any type of change. And then Don wrote really super nice little message here in the end. Please let me know if there's anything I can do for you, seeing how much you've helped me so much. First of all, just me being able to share these messages is extremely helpful. So anyone that has any questions, please leave comments on the YouTube channel or email me, daniel@insomniainsight.co, or like Don, he sent a message by Facebook. I'm a little bit not as good as checking like Facebook and Instagram messages, but any way you want to connect is great. That helps me a lot. And since you asked, Don, and anybody else that's tuning in that find this helpful, if you want to rate the podcast on iTunes or wherever you listen to it, super helpful, and I'm thankful for all of the help I'm getting here. Really, just before I stop recording here, going on, I think I started this channel about 10 or 11 months ago, and the first few episodes, it was kind of bizarre because I was just talking. I knew that literally nobody was listening, and now lots of comments. I've gotten lots of messages. I've heard back from a lot of people, and it's just been amazing. So thanks everyone, and with that, we'll conclude this episode, and I'll be back very shortly. And have a very good day, night, morning, wherever you are, whatever time zone you are in. Hope you're having a really good rest of your day. Bye-bye.